Chapter 171 to 176. It's a little weird, seeing someone like Bryce. He has so much power, easily making him a powerhouse in the world, yet his kit is heavily skewed. He only has a mid-ranking perception skill and his defense is like paper, and yet, his offensive ability is among the best in the world, allowing him to casually wipe out entire armies in seconds. Don't get me wrong, he's got the basic skills. He's got magic sense, or a perception ability on par with it, and he's got the basic barrier skills like multi-layer barrier. But that's it. With his massive amount of magicules, against weaker beings, simply overcharging the skills is enough. But even that has a limit. For example, using the same amount of magicules, infinite barrier, has more defensive capabilities than multi-layer barrier. It's as if he only used his deprive unique skill on Veldora and never used it again. That's just a massive waste of his skills. Who knows, if he diligently kept accumulating power, he might have posed a bit of a challenge against me. Right now, Bryce is in his human form, no longer being infused with his black lightning. His clothes are tattered all over and his skin is covered in dirt. He's currently laying on the ground, breathing heavily. It's not because he's physically exhausted. He's a spiritual being, he does not need to breathe. In fact, Bryce, RGH. It's because he is currently in the middle of a torture session. Specifically, he's the one being tortured. As for his torturer, obviously, it's yours truly. Go. Bryce, PP please dash. Control natural elements. Bryce, ARH. I had Ilya sever his connection with his storm crest, removing his authority over anything storm related. After that, I used control magic to take him out of his thunder god whatever mode. Using universal thread to hold him down, the sharp threads, I then burn him with fire using control natural elements. And finally, using scat hack, I wrote a rune that enhances his pain while making sure he never grows used to it. I didn't bother preventing him from falling unconscious, he wakes up from the pain immediately after. With his own regeneration, this is something like hell for him who has rarely gotten hurt. Bryce, Oh, he fell unconscious again. It's okay. I have a trusty tool to help me. It's called my foot. I rear it back and send it flying in between his legs. Crack. Bryce high-pitched squealing asterisk. Music to my ears. How did it come to this? Well, I won't get into detail, but I basically overpowered him with brute strength and versatility. I slashed Yamato at him again and again, sending one space rift after the other at him. He constantly sent lightning to intercept them, but the rifts simply ate them and continued unhindered. Each rift would hit Bryce, because he couldn't dodge to save his life, and outright sever his limbs, causing him to scream in agony as the spatial rift consumed them. More than once, I destroyed his head, which gave him a feeling of death. Fortunately or unfortunately, his regeneration and spiritual body kept him alive. That and some healing runes I snuck on his body. As I said, he's not dying easily. Getting curious, I decided to let him touch me. You know, to see if his deprive works on me. So I just stopped attacking, and after not doing anything for 5 seconds, he suddenly gained an epiphany and shot forwards towards me through a streak of black lightning. Bryce, I got you. He places a palm on my chest. Bryce, deprive. I felt something worming its way into me, but between my ultimate skills and Ilya, I could crush it with just my will. But I didn't do anything. Instead, I just enjoyed the sight of Bryce slowly lifting his head to look at my face as fear settled in more than anything. Behind Shizu's mask, I smiled. I wonder what he saw. In any case, Bryce then proceeded to turn around and run. Of course, if I, the wielder of the crest of space, were to let anyone run from me, it would have to be intentional. To have escaped without my permission is the stuff of dreams. I set up a closed space bubble around us. He ran away from me at full speed in one direction only to appear again from the other end of the horizon. Seeing me again, he turned around once more and ran, reappearing on the other end of the horizon again. The idiot didn't realize what was going on until he tried around 200 more times. Finally, once he realized he couldn't run, he grew desperate, and attacked me the exact same way all over again by sending lightning at me. This time, all arrogance is gone from his face and is now replaced by fear. I can't actually see his face because of the lightning, but his eyes tell the same story. So yeah, this happened for a bit longer before I decided to have a little more fun. I used universal thread to tie his feet together before flicking the thread linked between us, sending him into the ground. I then lifted him up over my head before slamming him into the ground on the other side of me again. It's like that scene in the Avengers movie where Hulk grabbed Loki by his feet and treated him like a doll. It was marvelous. I did this again and again until I got bored, which didn't happen for about 5 more minutes. I got the feeling that Bryce kept trying to say something, but he always ate dirt because his mouth was open. And then I decided to just inflict pain onto him. It's a simple method of burning him again and then breaking his family jewels should he fall unconscious. His regeneration is more like a curse now, especially since I boosted it with my runes. Said runes also kept his sanity intact. Hehe, no escape. Fwoom. Bryce, gahaha. Rimuru, his screams all sound the same. Ilya, of course they do, Oniai-chan. Their screams. I'm so glad Ilya is apathetic to all this. Right. I guess I'll finish this. Removing the rune keeping his sanity, I then replace it with a different rune. Rimuru, hey, Bryce. Have you ever seen Naruto? I feel him try to respond, but I'm not looking for an answer. Rimuru, there's this jutsu called Tsukuyomi. It traps the target in an illusion where time passes much faster than in reality. Bryce's eyes widen. I doubt he realized exactly what this means for him, but it obviously isn't good. Placing the Tsukuyomi rune on his head, Bryce's body falls limp. As for what's going on in there? Simple. There's a copy of Mikoto, Cheyenne, and everyone else he fought in there. Each of them has a small knife. They will then plunge it into his body at random areas and occasionally move them across his skin, cutting him open randomly. He doesn't have his regeneration nor can he move in this illusion, but I removed his sense of pain. With a mirror hanging overhead, he will see his body slowly get mutilated without feeling anything. This will cause his sanity to erode quickly. After that, everything will reset. His memories, his body, his spirit, his sanity, everything. This will happen hundreds of times. Except once, where there is a scene of him getting double-teamed by Miltan and Puri prisoner. In the end, I will restore all his lost memories and make him endure the pain he should have felt from all those moments. All at once. And if I'm right, it should happen right now. Flinch. Bryce's body jerks once. His eyes are open. But this time, no emotions are shown in them. Instead, a single tear rolls out. I really don't get this. He never cried at all. Or rather, his body couldn't cry. But now he can shed tears. Well, it's good to see that it isn't just me suffering from bullshit anime logic. Using Manas, Iliasville, for myself, I take a look at his soul. Instead of a normal ball of white light that all souls look like, his looks deformed. It looks like someone grabbed it from both ends and twisted it hard. And then they curb-stomped it before playing a game of volleyball with it. Except the players are macho men with Saitama level strength. Those men then proceed to slap their peens across the soul for good measure. Rimuru. I'd say it's a job well done. Ilya, Umu. I then eat his body and soul with Beelzebub. As much as I hate him, he's got good stuff. Teleporting out of the mirror dimension, I find myself above a large gathering of humans. Or rather, they are soldiers. The Pharmas army. Gotta clean them up. I'm floating in the skies way away above the Pharmas army so no one noticed me. They are currently setting up camp, probably waiting for the return of their summoned otherworlders to finish dealing with Avalon. Rimuru, you know, I always wonder how you get the exact spatial coordinates I need to teleport to the perfect spot. Ilya, magic. Yeah, I figured she won't tell me that easily. Like, in the case of Ramaris Labyrinth, the holy capital of Rubrios and the Ingracia royal capital, she always gave coordinates that positioned us nearby our destination. But I had this sneaking suspicion that she could have given me pinpoint accurate coordinates and the only reason she didn't was because Ranga loved to run, so she had me teleport a little ways away. Maybe she boosted her universal sense with her infinite magicules and scanned the whole world a long time ago. It's a scary thought, but surprisingly, I don't think it's impossible for her. Anyway, I'm currently a couple of kilometers above the army. Just in case, I have a concealment rune covering myself. There should be a pretty powerful magician in the army. His name is Raisin or something. Ilya, it's Raisin, Oniai-chan. Rimuru, oh yes, thank you. I'm really thankful for Ilya. She is the perfect Imuto. Ilya, ihih. Right. In any case, what should I do with these guys? I don't feel the need of torturing them all, nor do I want to go through the trouble of doing that. I mean, they moved against Avalon, but after dealing with Bryce, I just feel apathetic towards them. I know most of the soldiers are innocent in this matter, they are simply following orders. They probably have a family back home, with a wife or kids. Perhaps they enlisted into the army to earn money for their sick parents, who are waiting back home with a smile on their face, wondering what stories their child will tell them the next time they return. It's sad, really. Disheartening. I mean, the fact that I'm considering killing these people. Sigh. Regardless of the fact, they, as a collective, moved against Avalon. My people in Avalon also have lives, you know? They have families. Some have wives, some have husbands, some have children, and some have sick parents. If this attack went the way the king of Pharmus envisioned it, many of my people would have died. Why? For the simple fact that my people are monsters. That they are not human. And most importantly, for the simple fact that the higher-ups of the Pharmus kingdom are too greedy for their own good. I am not a saint. I am not a hero. I am not even a generally good guy. I have an affinity for humans, seeing how I used to be one. But I know. I'm not human anymore. I have my own people to look after, my own home to protect. To those who attempt to take them away from me, don't expect you can walk away from this. Taking a page from OG Rimura's book, I used control natural elements to gather water drops in the sky and use them as magnifying lenses. After magnifying the sun and concentrating its light rays into laser beams barely a millimeter across, I shot a single beam into the head of every human below me while sparing a few. All with Ilya's support, mind you. The few I spared were the higher-ups of the army, like the king, the generals, Raisin. Ilya, Raisin. Right, Raisin. Those kinds of people. Why? Simple. I want them to see how futile it was to make Avalon an enemy. Within a second, every single soldier in the army fell to the ground dead. This created a loud sound that attracted all the remaining living humans' attention. I teleported myself lower and removed the concealing rune, and I stayed like that for 5 minutes. Panic. So much panic. They all wondered what just happened. Eventually, one of them noticed me hovering in the air. My position spread like wildfire and soon every human was looking at me. Granted, there are only like 50 humans left, but I digress. I looked down at them with cold eyes. Thinking about how they wanted to take what was mine, brings up this silent, cold anger within me. Even with Shizu's mask covering my face, they can feel my eyes boring into each and every one of them. The king stepped forward and opened his mouth. He probably wanted to shout at me, asking my identity. Perhaps he already knew who I was and wanted me to lower myself before him. Or perhaps he wanted to beg for forgiveness. Ilya, it's the second one, Oniai-chan. He still has this noble aura around him. Probably doesn't realize his position. Then that makes things even worse. Fuck that, I don't want to listen to his drivel. So I simply shot him in the head with a sun laser beam. Dropping to the ground dead, everyone else immediately began to move, so I also shot them all in the head. Surprisingly, one of them survived. It was Raisin, no, Raisin. I remember now. He's the chief royal sorcerer or magician. I don't know. If I remember correctly, he has a technique to move his soul from one body to the next, so he can probably cheat death. So I just crushed his soul. I remember him being useful to Rimuru in canon, but I have no use for him. Nor Pharmus, that country can simply rot away. As I said, I'm not a saint nor a hero. I don't care about people outside of those close to me. I could save so many people with my skills, but I won't. It's because they are not related to me at all. This may make me evil, but I don't care. I will do what I want to do, I will not bend to anyone, nor will I forgive anyone who opposes me. Rimuru, ooh, there are so many souls here. Shiny. Ilya, quickly, Oniai-chan. Grab the precious. And so I consumed all the souls with Belzebuth, to keep them for later. Who knows, they may prove useful. Maybe I can even become a demon lord. These souls can be useful. Specifically, I want to see if I can become a demon lord with these souls. Ilya, why do you want to become a demon lord anyway, Oniai-chan? Rimuru. I don't know. I know that you normally become one by reaching a certain power level, receiving a demon lord seed, feeding that seed with thousands of souls before that seed blooms, and you become an official demon lord. It should work similarly for me. Maybe? I don't know, but that's not important. The point is, OG Rimuru became a demon lord, so I thought I might as well become one to get stronger, but... Rimuru. Now that I think about it, I'm pretty strong already. This whole thing with Bryce happened because I got too complacent. I could have done so much more, like using my clones, creating more items, placing more runes. I could have done so much more. Plus, as I think more about becoming a demon lord, Rimuru, it kinda seems like a pain to deal with. All the shit I have to go through when I become a demon lord. I don't want to deal with all that. Ilya, so, do we keep the souls or let them go? Rimuru, Meh. Keep them. I mean, I went out of my way to collect them all. Might as well keep them stashed in the corner of my Belzebuth stomach. Having no reason to stay here any longer, I invoke Spatial Ruler and teleport back to Avalon. I appear in front of my house. It's the same house that I lived in ever since I made it. It's a large Japanese-style mansion. I made it on the day Shizue first arrived in my village to make her stay as comfortable as possible before she, combusted. Well, I consumed her body before it came to that. In any case, it became a home for me, Mikoto, Ilya and Shizu. Occasionally, I invite my subordinates over to have some fun. And now, everyone should be inside. But before that... Rimuru, Ilya. With a stream of magicules, Ilya reforms back into her normal lowly form next to me. My hand unconsciously raises and drops on her head. Like a cat, she pushes up against my hand. I take off Shizue's mask and store it away. Quickly walking inside, we reach the living room where I find everyone of importance. Rigurd, Geld, Vesta, Kaijin, Gabble, Trainee, Benimaru, Soai, Hakuru, Shuna, Kurobe, Shizu and even Gabuta, Orc Jeff and Goblin Jeff are here too. I have no idea how the last three got in here, but I don't have time for this, so I ignore them and turn my attention to the still body laying on the couch. Everyone else who was standing around them with solemn expressions registers my presence, and very quickly, hope fills their eyes. Rigurd, Rimuru-sama. I hold up my hand, and Rigurd stops speaking. It's a signal saying that I can handle this. First things first, I should take care of Cheyenne before I take care of Mikoto. There's no other reason other than the fact that dealing with Cheyenne is easier. From my Belzebuth stomach, I take out Cheyenne's body and lay it down on a spare couch off to the side. Her body appears in a cloud of black mist unique to Belzebuth. She looks like she's just sleeping with how peaceful her expression is. Any kind of dirt, blood, and debris was cleaned off her while in my stomach, so she looks flawless. Not even her clothes are damaged. Holding my hands out, a familiar white ball of light appears in my hands. Cheyenne's soul. I look towards Ilya and nod. Ilya replies with her own nod and closes her eyes. Slowly, her body begins to shine with a bright light. It's very similar to her magical girl transformation, but it's a bit different. The light covers her body before quickly bursting into small motes of light, revealing Ilya in her new form. Ilya's transformation ability has 3 forms. One is her casual form, which she spends the most time in. The other is in her magical girl form, which she mostly uses for combat purposes. And finally the last is her dress of heaven form that lets her use her full powers as a monist that specializes in the soul. It's not like she needs to use her dress of heaven form, but this is as good of a chance as any to use it, so she might as well. With a white crown that is lined with gold, Ilya is now wearing a cute white outfit lined with red and gold. Ilya raises her hands that are covered with her overly large sleeves towards the soul in my hand. It floats over Cheyenne's chest and lowers into her body under Ilya's influence and quickly binds back with her body. Rimuru, sorry for being such a slave driver, but you're not done serving me yet, Cheyenne. Writing a simple revival rune with Scat-Hack, her shattered heart regenerates quickly and starts to beat again. Slowly, she starts to breathe. Everyone behind me watches with anticipation. Cheyenne's eyelids twitch a bit. Slowly, her eyes open, revealing her amethyst purple eyes that match her hair. She looks around, with half-open eyes, taking in her surroundings as she tries to make sense of what is going on. She eventually looks up at me. She just stares. Slowly, her eyes widen as she pieces together what happened. I smile. Rimuru, welcome back, Cheyenne, Rimuru-sama. And then without warning, Cheyenne leaps towards me while screaming my name before my vision goes dark as Cheyenne's breasts envelop my face. Dark Soul's death sound. You died. Shuna, Cheyenne. Leave Rimuru-sama alone. Ilya, hands off my Oniai-chan. Shuna tries to pull Cheyenne off of me with Ilya's assistance, but Cheyenne's vice grip around my head isn't letting go anytime soon. Cheyenne, Rimuru-sama. I knew you would save me. I wonder why. I don't need to breathe, but it feels like I'm suffocating. I turn into my slime form to slip out of her grip while I relish in the ability to breathe again, but this body doesn't need air. I weave through everyone's legs quickly and find myself face to face with Makoto's unconscious body. I turn to look at Makoto, ignoring the scene of Shuna and Ilya struggling to hold back Cheyenne from outright *ping me. Makoto barely looks like she just went through a life or death battle. She looks like she's sleeping, even more so than Cheyenne. Because, unlike Cheyenne, Makoto is actually breathing. With Shuna's cleaning magics and spare Tokuwadai middle school uniform she is now wearing, how the fuck does she have so many damn copies of the same clothes? It looks like she's having a small nap after a warm shower. Her calm rhythmic breathing also adds to that sense of tranquility. Except that she is currently in a state not dissimilar to a coma. I mean, her soul is pretty damaged and her heart was, you know, unbroken. You know what? Thinking about it pisses me off. I put Bryce's soul in my Belzebuth stomach through a Boku no Pico viewing marathon. Take that, you twit. Using universal sense, I double-check and find that there is no trauma or remaining damage from her unbroken heart. I sigh in relief. Rimuru, phew, I'm glad I gave her Avalon. No, I didn't give her the city of Avalon, but rather the sheath that Avalon was named after. Avalon, a noble phantasm, aka the ever-distant utopia, aka the sheath of the famous Excalibur. Specifically, this is from the Fate series. To be honest, I gave it to Makoto on a whim because I felt like walking up to her one day and whispering into her ear, I can't hold back anymore, I need to insert my Excalibur into your Avalon. Before taking Avalon out of her, sheathing Excalibur into it and watching her reaction. I gave it to her on the day she returned to Avalon, the city, after we dealt with Shizue's students and their spirits. I gave her the Raphael, skill orb and Avalon, the sheath. The wielder of Avalon, the sheath, is said to obtain a sort of limited immortality through constant regeneration and also becoming unable to age. At least, that was the flavor text on the original. I mean, why hold back when you can go all the way? So I made the thing grant total physical immortality to its wielder, lol. It works by holding the soul in the body while the body regenerates in case its wielder dies, so it's more like a forced unconscious state rather than actual death. But its healing is a bit slow. Simple cuts heal instantly, but amputated limbs take less than half an hour and damaged organs take a bit less. Makoto's heart would have taken a whole 20 minutes to heal. Yeah, like I said. The healing is slow. But when I came back and took Makoto from Bryce just after he shattered her heart, I sped up Avalon's healing by feeding my magicules into it and tweaking it a bit. So her heart is okay now. I mean, it becomes more gross than fascinating if the healing happens too fast, you know? So I created it with its healing a bit slow. Now I realize that was a bit of a mistake. Another mistake I made is that physical immortality thing. Yeah. Physical. Meaning Avalon has no defenses for the soul. I mean, can you blame me? Skills and items that can damage the soul are rare. Like, really rare. I think there's barely 100 items and skills that can do that in the world right now. Well, it's a mistake and I take full responsibility. I'm not trying to make excuses, I'm just explaining my thought process. It's my mistakes and flawed thinking that got Makoto in this position right now, and I want to fix this. And by I mean our residential soul expert, Ilya. Turning back into my human form, I turn to look at my dear Imuto. Sensing my gaze, she stops helping Shuna with Cheyenne and runs over to me with a smile on her face, her dress of heaven fluttering behind her as she runs. So adorable. She quickly takes off her crown with her hands that are hidden in her oversized sleeves and lowers her head towards me, to which I pat out of habit. Wait, now is not the time. Rimuru, Ilya, can you check on Makoto and see if you can heal her? Ilya, leave it to me. Puffing her chest out and pounding her fist on it, she turns to look at Makoto with a more serious gaze. I'm still patting her head. Meanwhile, I also take a look at Makoto's soul. Like everyone else's soul, it looks like a ball of glowing white mist compressed to make it look physical, except for a couple of differences. First, there's a big chunk taken out of it. It's like a toddler ripped a bit of Play-Doh off a larger pile. Well, I guess Bryce was a bit of a toddler, huh? Secondly, her soul has bits of gold shimmering here and there. It reminds me a lot of the Raphael skill orb I gave her. Like Avalon, the sheath, I gave it to Mikoto on a pure whim. It seems it was useful. I guess. I mean, unlike other skills, it looks like Mikoto's soul and Raphael fused. Although fused isn't the right word either. Imagine it like this. The soul is a computer, and skills are little add-ons you can insert into the computer like a mouse, keyboard, USB, things like that. But what I see in Mikoto's soul right now is like someone stuck a USB, Raphael, skill orb, into a computer, Mikoto's soul, and uploaded all the files on the USB into it. It's quite interesting. I would want to take a moment to admire it more, maybe figure out what the effects of this fusion are. But I really don't want to delay this any further. This all happened within my sped-up perception, as all monologues should be, so the moment I snapped out of it. Ilya, I know what to do. Ilya raises her sleeved hands dramatically and began to work her magic. Back when MC was just preparing to leave Freedom Academy, I went looking for Ilya, to which I found her pretty easily. She was with Ranga, pampering him by petting and scratching him all over. I explained to them that we're probably going to have to return to Avalon soon, but I immediately got a signal from the Dogecoin, so I can't go at my own pace anymore. Now is the time to start rushing. Ranga jumps into my shadow and Ilya hugs my arm. I use Spatial Ruler to quickly teleport into the S-class classroom, to which I find all 5 of my students already there. Good. Now that I think about it, I've already been calling them MY students instead of Shizu students. I guess I really like these kids. Wait, now's not the time. Rimuru, something popped up, so I'll be heading back to Avalon. I then use Universal Shapeshift to turn into Arnold Schwarzenegger. Rimuru, I'll be back. I then use Spatial Ruler and teleport back to Avalon. Third person POV. As soon as he left, the kids screamed at the top of their lungs. Whether it was out of fear, surprise, or something else, no one would ever know. Ilya got to work. Currently, she's waving her hands around doing stuff I have no clue about. I feel her doing something though, evidenced by the fact that she's fiddling with Beelzebub. Though to an outsider, she looks like she's gone crazy. Ilya stomps on Rimuru's foot angrily before going back to work. So soft. Step on me more. Cough. Calm down, Rimuru. That's a dangerous road you're walking down. In any case, her actions get me curious. What exactly is going on? And so, I use my connection with Ilya to read into what she's doing. The result? I see a bunch of nonsense. I have no clue what she's doing. I can't even explain what I'm seeing or what's going through her head, it's just going so fast and I can't process what she's doing at all. Well, if Ilya were to fuse with me, that would be a different story. In any case, I decided to take a figurative step back. You know that saying where if you can't figure something out, taking a step back and changing your perspective might just fix the problem? It's like that. And yes, I do philosophy. My most famous quote to date is, "You will never fail if you never try in the first place." I'm sure I heard it somewhere else, but this is a new world, so copyright can kiss my cough. I digress. Anyway, taking a figurative step back let me ignore all the minor details and take a look at the bigger picture. I don't know how, and the why is a bit iffy, but this way I can observe Ilya's general thought process. It's like this. Mikoto's soul is damaged. We've already established that. Specifically, Bryce ripped her protection, her Biribiri crest, off of her forcefully. Biribiri crest? Are you high, Veldanava? What is that name? Fortunately, that's the only thing Bryce took. Unfortunately, that was enough to force Mikoto into a coma and would have resulted in her soul gradually breaking down if not for Ilya halting the degeneration right after we arrived. Not only that, this happened right in the middle of her evolution. Holy shit, Mikoto went through an evolution. That explains the sexy outfit she was in before. Anyway, it happened during her evolution, so her evolution wasn't completed and it's also a little fucked up because of it. Normally, she would have evolved into a saint, the final evolution for a human. But now, for reasons I'm not entirely sure of, that evolution path is cut off. Yes, Mikoto can no longer evolve into a saint. Jesus Christ, even in your death, you still cause us so many problems, Bryce. I proceed to increase the intensity of the Boku no Pico marathon watching Bryce's soul is going through before turning my attention back to Ilya's hand waving. Anyway, Bryce took her Biribiri crest, so the solution is simple. Just give it back. Ilya fiddled with Bryce's soul in my Beelzebub stomach and realized something rather interesting. Mikoto's Biribiri crest has fused with the storm crest. It seemed Bryce knew his protection was inferior and wanted to enhance it. Fucker. I add some nutcracking rituals to Bryce's soul in the middle of his marathon. Every few seconds, a random foot will come flying into his spiritual nuts. Ilya then proceeds to sever his connection with the storm crest. Well, rather than sever, it's more like she ripped it straight off. It seems she's also pissed at him. What happens next is a complete surprise for me though. It seems I underestimated the deprive unique skill when it was used on Veldora. It didn't just take everything from Veldora, it took Veldora himself. Well, it's not really Veldora. It's more like a subconsciousness, an alternate personality, or something along those lines. Regardless, it's a core aspect of the true dragon that used to be called Veldora. For simplicity's sake, I'll call this the Veldora aspect. Bryce pretty much sealed the Veldora aspect within himself, which also prevented Veldora from resurrecting as all true dragons should. Although I'm pretty sure Bryce himself didn't know this. So, deprive turns out to be stronger than expected, but that also fucked over Bryce in a couple of ways. First off, if any of the other true dragons knew this, death would be the least of concern for Bryce. Secondly, having the Veldora aspect within himself reduced his own control over the storm crest, hence, its weakened state. Fucking idiot. And so, without any drama, aside from her dramatic hand waving, she freed the Veldora aspect. With a flash of black lightning, it left Ilya's hands and shot out the window, seeking a magically rich place to resurrect itself in. This caused a bit of panic to ensue within my subordinates watching behind me, but I reassured them that it's fine. With the Veldora aspect gone, however, the storm crest lost much of its strength, becoming nothing more than a shell or a container. It still holds some power, but it's nowhere near the strength of a protection. It's more like a very weak blessing. The Biribiri crest was unaffected, however. But seeing the container state the crest is in, I get a bit of an idea. From the information I can see through Ilya, as deluded as it is, I realize that this can be an opportunity. The empty storm crest can be used to transfer something to Mikoto without any sort of fuss. Sure, I can do the same thing with my runes, but I might as well take the chance when it presents itself, right? I can put something in the crest, and since the storm crest is connected to the Biribiri crest, I can't get over that name, and the Biribiri crest is a part of Mikoto, transferring something into her would be a piece of cake. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't want to fiddle with her soul. That is a taboo in my mind as this can effectively change who a person is. Restoring her soul to how it should be is acceptable, but I don't want to change anything else. I'm sure she would also get very angry with me if I do something like that, regardless if it's to her or not. No, what I'm thinking of is to simply give her something that should prove very beneficial. And so, I ask Ilya about it. Rimuru, hey, Ilya, can we give something to Mikoto through the storm crest? Say, for example, a Demon Lord seed and 20,000 souls. The Demon Lord seed I have wasn't actually obtained legitimately. Rather, I stole it. Well, it's more like a part of my spoils of victory over Geld rather than theft. The Orc Disaster Geld, an Orc Lord that evolved into a disaster and obtained a Demon Lord seed. When I consumed Geld with Predator, I also took his Demon Lord seed for myself. It was considered a legitimate succession by the voice of the world, as forceful as it was. I also gained approximately 20,000 souls from killing all the Pharmas soldiers and a few more important people that I can't be bothered to remember. In the original series, Rimuru was able to evolve into a true Demon Lord with the seed and all the souls. Although it wasn't mentioned in the original series since the author didn't get into too much detail, apparently the souls of everyone the Orc Lord Geld killed before he evolved into a disaster were collected through his ravenous, unique skill. I'm not sure exactly how many, but there are around 50 to 80,000 souls in this seed already. My god, that's a lot of souls. How many monsters did those guys eat? Or rather, how many souls do you need to become a true Demon Lord? Maybe these absurd amounts of souls were the reason Rimuru was more powerful than other recently evolved Demon Lords. I mean, aside from Raphael, carrying him through the evolution. Snapping out of my reverie, I turned to Ilya. Rimuru, so. Is it possible to use the storm crest as a container to transfer the seed and the souls to Makoto? Ilya places a finger on her chin while tilting her head, my heart, so cute, and thinks about it. In actuality, she's simulating the process and the outcome. Tens, hundreds, thousands of times, searching any possibility of it happening before making the most optimal plan of success. Finishing everything in under a second, Ilya smiles and nods, looking at me with her bright ruby eyes. I copy her smile. Rimuru, right. Let's get to it. Even though Ilya's the only one doing anything, details. And so, Ilya got to work. First, she, has to sever the connection I have with the Demon Lord seed. As I mentioned before, the moment I took the seed from Orc Disaster Geld, the voice of the world considered it legitimate, so it's mine. It's not just something I'm keeping in my Beelzebub stomach, it's actually a part of me. So Ilya has to sever this connection. Snip. Oh, well that was easy. Cutting my connection with the seed, she stuffs it into the empty storm crest along with all the other souls I got from the soldiers from a country I can't be bothered to remember. The storm crest is now something like a zip file, now that I think about it. Taking control of the storm crest and the Biribiri crest, Ilya takes it out of my stomach and it appears hovering in between her hands. It looks like a small sphere the size of a peanut, half white and half black with small lightning sparks arcing around. Well, most of the lightning is from the white side, the black side is a little dull and lacking energy. Must be the consequence of losing the Veldora aspect. Slowly, the ball of light hovers over above Makoto and slowly sinks into her forehead. Like rewinding a video, small tendrils stretch from both the white side of the peanut ball and Makoto's soul. They touch, and very quickly, they mend back together like nothing is wrong. The black part quickly gets eaten, as there is no need for two protections. Instead, the Biribiri crest grows slightly stronger. And without any container to hold them in, the seed and the souls get released. The Demon Lord's seed quickly binds with Makoto and absorbs all the souls before they rampage or disappear. Now that I think about it, couldn't I have just made another seed with my skills? Oh. Maybe I can even make a hero egg too. Meh. I'll do it later. And just like that, Makoto continues her evolution. This time, as a demon lord and without any fuckers with heart-exploding tendencies to interrupt her. I wonder if she'll go back to that sexy transformation I saw. Spark. Rimuru, I'm sorry. Out of reflex, I apologized, but then I remembered Makoto should still be unconscious. Looking at her body that is still lying on the couch, I see more and more sparks of bluish-white lightning appear on her skin. They start as small sparks bouncing across and off her skin before those sparks get larger and much more frequent. If this was a cultivation world, I would say that the lightning was tempering her body or some Xianxia shit like that. Using Scat Hack, I write some runes down to create a field around Makoto's body to protect everyone and everything around her. I mean, I'm not sure how dangerous those lightning sparks are, but I don't want to really risk the home I've been living in for months. The couch Makoto is sleeping on is probably a goner though. A noble sacrifice. Rimuru, I will not forget you. Ilya Oniai-chan, what color was the couch? Rimuru. Be blue. Ilya sighs and shakes her head with a wry smile. Moving on. Suddenly, I get an idea. Running under the theory that the amount of souls you obtain increases the power you obtain after your evolution, what would happen if I gather as many souls as I can and funnel it straight into Makoto's Demon Lord seed? I turn to Ilya, wanting to voice my question, but one look at Ilya's shining eyes as she looks back at me tells me she just thought of the same thing. And so, without saying anything else, we got to work. Using her massive power over souls, she gathers as many souls as she can from as far as she can reach, which might as well be the entire world. Seeing the onrush of ethereal souls, I teleport outside and activate Beelzebub to consume them all. Using the connection between us, Ilya then transfers all the souls in my stomach into Makoto's Demon Lord seed. We do that for a whole 5 minutes. Ilya Oniai-chan, you might want to see this. Ilya contacts me through thought communication, so I stop consuming souls and quickly teleport back inside. What I see was outside of my expectations. Everything within the small bubble around Makoto is nothing but pure white, as if all the electricity in the world gathered here, creating a vortex of pure energy. Continuing my observation of Makoto's soul, I see something happen. Using my connection with Ilya, I realize that it's actually the voice of the world taking action. Unique skills, harmony, and limit break have been fused due to evolution. Ultimate skill, Saitama, limitless god, has been acquired. Pfft. My god, Mikoto is unstoppable now. Name, Rimuru. Race, Origin Slime. Protection, Crest of Space. Title, Highest Tier Spirit, Leader of the Monsters, Oniai-chan, King of Avalon, Master of Head Pats, Procrastinator King, The Nutcracker, Socially Awkward Cringe Slightly Chuyuni Slime, Dragon Slayer, Sensei. Manus, Iliasville. Ultimate Skills, Belzebuth, Lord of Gluttony, Ahura Mazda, Lord of Creation, Scathach, Lord of Runes. Unique Skills, Spatial Ruler. Intrinsic Skills, Infinite Regeneration, Universal Shape Shift, Universal Sense, Enhanced Replication, Universal Thread. Extra Skills, Lord's Ambition, Thought Communication, Control Natural Elements, Control Magic, Control Gravity. Resistances, Cancel Pain, Resist Melee Attack, Cancel Natural Elements, Cancel Ailments, Cancel Spiritual Attack, Resist Holy/Demonic Attack, Natural Attack Resistance. Equipment, Yamato. If you want to support me, check out my Patreon at https://www.patreon.com/Kaioshin. I tend to polls that decide important plot stuff in my Patreon. Many thanks to my awesome patrons. Nicholas Berenger, Ben Phillips, Yamatancho, Taco TSK, Yuki, Jose Torres. If you enjoyed the content, don't forget to give it a like and subscribe to the channel. I'll be here until next time.